Are we doing it already?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
porn and Tantra practice.
Hey, welcome back to Tantra Talks, and today we're answering questions about porn, the use of pornography, and your Tantra practice. So this is a topic of much interest, and we get a lot of questions, particularly from men and people with penises, specifically about how Tantra views the use of porn. And I don't think that like Tantra, there is a, Tantra views porn. Yeah, I don't think there is. Yeah. But we can share our perspective, again, based on our Tantra practice and our 17 years of cultivation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I would begin with is that porn is, it's arousing and all that sort of fun stuff, but it's very externalized. It's very out there. And the other thing about, particularly with like internet porn as we see now, again, it's externalized and it leaves nothing to the imagination, nothing. So as a matter of fact, it's robbing you of the ability to imagine because it's all presented right there, right in front of you. You don't have to imagine anything; you just have to absorb it, right? And again, it actually atrophies the ability to imagine over time. Because all you have to do, you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'll watch more porn, right? So I kind of leaped into the middle there.
I mean, you're more of a connoisseur than I am, so I'm happy to let you take the lead. But for what I'd love to do though is kind of outline the different kinds of porn, right? Or what we call porn, because you and I are Gen Xers, right? So I was born in '74. You were born in '69. We're old folks, though. 50 is the new 30. I'm just saying, y'all. So when you and I were coming up, like porn was like Playboy magazines, right?
Yeah, magazines that.
And it was VHS tapes that our parents had or our uncles had, like in their drawer, right? But that was porn. So it was like it was glossy magazines. And so it was before the internet existed. Like the internet was not even a glimmer in Steve Jobs' mind at that point, or whoever the fuck created it. So porn was a very different beast at that time. I would say it was more like, to me, because I remember finding some of these when I was a kid and we were riding bikes, we found somebody's Playboy magazine in a puddle somewhere and we were like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And so we took it home and we carefully dried out each sheet we laid. I think we dried it with like a hair blow dryer or something like that. And we would look at these images. And to me, I think I was like, I don't know, maybe between 10 and 12. I remember getting very aroused. I was both fascinated and aroused, but I didn't understand what aroused meant at that time. So I was just like strangely titillated, and I didn't understand it. And I knew that I needed to hide this shit from my mom. I knew that nobody should know I knew it was a dirty little secret. But I enjoyed it. And I remember, flipping through, and I think I had like 4 precious pages. And it was of women doing in various poses, right? So they were just like an image, it's a picture, right? Yeah. And in the olden days, like before photography, it would have been an illustration, right? So in terms of visual, or I'm sorry, print, and in terms of print porn, print erotica has been around literally for millennia. There's freaking statues in India, like the Tantra temples in India that have the statues of people, getting jiggy with it. They're getting busy, right? And so that's porn. That's or erotica. I'm going to refer that to as erotica because it's not like porn to me is this very intense fucking heavy thing that's like pumping out through the internet for most people. And erotica to me is more like statues and photography and illustrations and drawing and stories. It's a more sensuous thing for me. It feels less overwhelming.
More imaginative capacity.
Exactly. It gives us an image, but it also invites us to imagine more. Right?
It invites us to embellish on the image.
Yes.
Whereas internet porn is like anti that. Yeah. It's just consume more.
So from the perspective of sensual erotica, that humans have been watching other humans fuck for since the time we could fuck, right? We all came up together in caves in the Ice Age. We all had to live on top of each other to survive. We were all fucking and sucking and, you know, sniffing and snorting, doing all of it. Like, it wasn't us in our little 5,000 square foot house was just the two of us like it is today, right? We had proximity to one another. We were, you know, we're animals, we're mammals, and we cohabitated, and the boundaries, the physical boundaries between us were not as extensive as they are now, right? So hearing, listening to, seeing, being around other human beings having sex is fucking normal. That's normal for humanity, right? And then erotica, images, drawing, stories, that's also normal. There's, you know, again, Chinese pillow books, like Indian sculptures, temples, Japanese, like Romans, pretty much every culture, they really enjoyed depicting other people having sex. It's fun stuff, right? So in terms of, do you enjoy watching other people have sex? Yes, I do. I very yes, I do. I very much enjoy watching I enjoy watching myself have sex. I enjoy watching other people have sex. I consider that normal and healthy. Yeah. So that's let's establish that. But porn, internet porn, is a different beast. It's a different beast because it's merging this healthy human desire for erotic stimulation with technology that the human brain and the human nervous system has not adapted to yet. We're still in the process, or has not found a way to healthily adapt to in a healthy way. So the adaptations right now to internet porn are unhealthy for many people. I've worked with many men who have had porn addictions, and before NoFap became a really big thing, I interviewed the founder of that on my Sex is Medicine podcast. You can check it out on Spotify, Sex is Medicine, but anyway, I interviewed him on that, like before NoFap was a real big thing, like when it was just this dude sharing his experience. And he and countless other men can attest to their lived embodied experience of their sexuality before having a dependency on internet porn and after having a dependency on internet porn. Whether you want to call it an addiction, I'm calling it a dependency, but they will state that they experience, not just one, hundreds if not thousands of men have noticed the difference from cultivating a dependency on internet porn, and then have noticed the difference since they've purified, we'll say, that dependency, right? So it does have an effect. It has a physiological effect, a psychological effect. It has an effect, and I'm not going to try and like dismiss the lived embodied experience of thousands of fucking men. So internet porn is a thing. It's a different thing. So we need to be really mindful of, in my opinion, of how we consume erotica and how we consume porn.
Yeah. And there's also this gravity towards the more and more and more extreme.
Well, and that's the dopamine thing.
It really is, because if you look at, like, say, porn from the 1970s when it's on VHS tapes.
With lots of furry bushes.
Exactly. But there's a story that the sex is embedded into. There's conversation that happens. The pool guy. As silly as some of it is, there's conversation that happens prior to the collision of bodies.
Would you like to fix my pipes?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to lay my pipes? Plumber.
And what's happening now is that you had the emergence of quote-unquote gonzo porn, which cut out all of the connective stuff and went straight to the collision. And now you've just got endless streams of that. There's almost zero humanity left in it. It's just one physical form and another physical form, and that you may as well be mashing Barbie dolls together, as we taled about.
And it's not even sorry to interrupt you. I like to interrupt you.
Porn interrupted.
but to that point, it's not even the full body that's colliding. It's usually the camera shot is just it's the friction, the penetration of the penis into the orifice.
Exactly.
That's the focal point.
And it all follows the same pattern of here's how different things are done, and here's the timing in which they're done, and this comes first, and that comes next, and this is the. And then the big money shot, that's
ejaculatory orgasm.
The whole point.
The male
right?
ejaculatory orgasm.
That's the whole point. And really, even in some of the more recent porn, they'll cut that out specifically to get you to go to the website that makes you buy in order to see that part.
Ooh, wow. You've got to pay for the cum shot.
Exactly.
I mean, you could just have your own cum shot, y'all.
Exactly.
Like, why pay for it?
Why
like,
pay
just
for it?
get to that point and, like, have your own cum shot.
But the thing
like,
is,
you can go over the edge yourself. I believe in you.
It's true. But again, it's if you're working with the field of imaginative power and capacity, which for Tantra is essential. I mean, the imaginative power, imaginative potency is a key form of Tantra as it's practiced in the world. And with this like bombardment of this disconnected sexuality, that leaves no room for imagination. You don't have to picture what would that, what does this person look like when they're moving, as in the case with like a photograph. You can picture that, you can imagine that. And in that case, it's encouraging to the development of imagination. With this stuff, it's all right there. You don't have to imagine anything, you just have to consume more. And then when it comes time to say, if you just want to pleasure yourself, now you're just like, you got no imaginative capacity because it's all been robbed. And you're like, I guess I have to go back to the porn. It's like you externalize your own imagination. And if your imagination is essential in liberating you from suffering, you've externalized that. You've given it away, right? Instead of being able to release yourself, you got to count on whatever website and whatever subscription to do it.
Wow. Talk about giving your power away. So what I'm hearing, like, so we're making this distinction between erotica and porn. And I'd say like a hallmark of erotica is it requires human imagination. Yes. So if we're listening to erotica, like if it's audio, we're creating pictures. If we're reading it, I used to love reading erotica. That's what romance novels are, y'all. It's fucking erotica. Like, that's what it is. Like, let's not lie about it. Like, romance novels, I used to fucking get off on that shit when I was a teenager. but erotica, like reading erotica, listening to erotica, pictures are erotica, and even like our Gen X porn was kind of erotic in a way, in that it told a story, and it required, like, you had to like follow
placed context,
a thread, context, and all of that. Okay, so we're making a distinction between that and then, Pornhub. Let's just say Pornhub. Like that, when I say internet porn, I'm thinking like Pornhub. So I'm sure there's other websites besides Pornhub, but that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Pornhub, right? So let's talk about this in relationship specifically to your Tantra practice, because, a lot of you beautiful men who are working diligently to cultivate your ability to separate orgasm from ejaculation and cultivate like your a healthy relationship with your body and your vajra and your ejaculatory response. Y'all send us questions about like, well, can I still use porn? So I'm going to say, wait. Yeah. I'm going to say in stages. So I will say yes to erotica. This is if you want to listen to Mama Devi, teacher Guru Devi, if you want to listen to Guru Devi, this is what I'm suggesting for you. Yes, erotica. Use your imagination, okay? Like, the Tantra practices that we teach, the holistic sexology and Tantra practices, or I'll say the sexual Tantra practices that we teach through the Institute, orgasmic awareness practice and lingam vajra massage are medicine to heal. And yes, it's, there's breath and there's meditation, but there's also like a lot of time with just you and your lingam and your breath. And sometimes you need to put some fire on that shit. You need like some lighter fuel on that to like get your body going, or get your winds going, get your charge going. And so I would say, and I would love for you to speak to this, but I would say to me, like in a Tantra practice, yes, because use your imagination. Fantasize, right? Like you're using your imagination with real Tantra. You're going to be like, when we give you the actual Vajrayana Tantra practices, like running the elements, and then eventually if you graduate to deity yoga practice down the line, you'll be using your imagination to visualize color and visualize shape and visualize yourself as a deity. So you're going to be using your imagination. That's what most people call fantasizing. You're using your imagination. So erotic using your imagination to cultivate eroticism, in my opinion, is healthy and in some cases even necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think about in your tantra? Like, we're talking about solo tantra.
Yeah.
We're not talking about necessarily when you're with your partner. That's a whole other topic. But in your solo tantra,
I would like to point out that for this conversation, for the weight of this conversation to come through, you need to pay attention to the fine distinctions. So we've made one between pornography and erotica. I'm going to make one between a solo cultivation session and an OAP, like an orgasmic awareness practice.
Okay.
For the orgasmic awareness practice, the whole point of that one is to tune into what you enjoy. And so any external stimulation on that one is kind of contraindicated because it's what somebody else thinks you should enjoy rather than what you really yourself enjoy. When we often gloss that distinction over, we just take what's given to us and we're like, I want that because you're trained to want it. Whereas as opposed to like, what is it that my body wants? So the OAP, I would not add any pornography to that at all, or even erotica, to be perfectly honest.
Erotica. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about imagination?
Imagination, yes, but at first you're really just tuning into when I do this, what's the sensation?
Okay.
And do I like that sensation or do I not? Mm-hmm. And then you're moving with the ones that you like more and more and more. And so that you're tuning in. The whole point of the OAP is so you know what's the difference between, not between a 1 and a 10, because that's easy on the pleasure scale, but what's the difference between a 6.5 and a 7.5, right? I mean, that's harder distinctions to make, and that takes more training. And this is why externalizing anything external that is going to get in the way of the self-tuning that you've got to do to really get what that practice is about. Now, for yourself, like solo cultivation, not OAP, but just self-play, then erotica's fun, and yes, the imagination, let it rip. Right? Again, with the externalized pornography, you're just kind of like zombie-ish. I got 38 seconds before this clip is over. Let's get it done. And that's, again, counteracting what all the other practices are doing. And again, the incorporation of erotica and really even pornography to a limited extent along the distinctions that we've made. We had somebody write in a question. They noted that when they were using the porn, they were like up here all the time. And that's what it's designed to do. The thing is, if you don't have the baseline training to handle that, that's not great.
It's going to make your training difficult.
Yeah, it's like learning to drive in a hypercar. You make one mistake and there's so much power and potency, you're wrapped around a pole before you know it. And same thing with this. So you get the baseline training. You understand how do I learn to control my own winds? How do I learn to control my own arousal? How do I learn to control my own ejaculation response? Then you can start bringing in some of the more high intensity stuff. What you may find, and certainly what I found in the process of doing that, is it's way less appealing. My imagination is way more appealing than the stuff I'm seeing on the screen. Because what I'm seeing on the screen, I always think like, wow, did they really want to do this? Or were they just doing it for the paycheck? Or like, I mean, and it's really distractive. It becomes more of a distraction than an aid. And again, the more I tune into what my body wants and needs, and the more I develop my own imaginative capacity, the more I much prefer that to somebody else's version of whatever they can do on whatever budget with whatever equipment they've got.
Wow, like you said so much in there that I want to circle back to, and so I want to hold your hand for this because this is beautiful. So I loved your description of orgasmic awareness practice. So orgasmic awareness practice is a solo practice that we teach our students that works with mindfulness, meditation, the breath during sexual stimulation. And we also teach this as a couples practice, but for now we're just talking about it as a single practice. And I love how you describe that meticulous attunement.
Oh yeah.
Right? How like it's really because, and it's such an important, like poignant point. Poignant point is because so much of our training, cultural training about sex is about out here.
Yep.
You know, it's about like for my generation of women, it's about like the man and pleasing the man and and his approval, and it's like our sexual satisfaction is about, you know, our partner. And then for guys, it's about feeding your sexual drive from the outside. So what you're describing is this beautiful and profound inner attunement and like noticing. And then like y'all, like the winds are the moving energies of the body.
And
so
they're subtle.
They're subtle, but
Really
they're also like they feel like music to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like different notes
Yeah,
of sensation and pleasure. And it's almost like playing, like I sometimes see it like playing a string instrument, playing, fine tuning with these subtle winds and riding these different currents and seeing where they kind of peter out and seeing where they blossom into more.
Yep.
So that's Tantra. That's sexual Tantra is attuning to and dancing with your subtle wind energies in your body. Like it's a beautiful little miracle that we get to explore, really right? Is. So I love how you like really that is, and initially that's what you're doing with your solo practice is you're learning your own winds, and your winds are a source that can be directed, right? When we talk about manifesting things, you know, it's a wind energy that we're sending out to like, you know, to create, to manifest. So air element, manifestation, creative accomplishment, right? So beautiful that you noted that. And so the fact that anything external, particularly internet porn, is going to distract you from that because it's all out here. It's an external thing, and so it's going to distract you from that fine tuning. It's like a refinement of that internal awareness, and that's so beautiful. And then the other thing that I want to add to that is your experience, what you've shared with me about your experience, which is like when you and I first met and started dating and stuff, you did use porn as an external support. But as your practice has matured, what you shared with me is that, like what you just said, is that you find it to be a distraction because your internal landscape is so vibrant. And your imagination and your attunement is so, again, refined that is like a whole universe. And I also just want to let everyone know that your sexual fantasies always include me, which I think is amazing for a husband after like 13 years of being together. No, we haven't been together for 13 years. How long have we been together?
Close,
since 2013. So it's been like 12 years that you still fantasize about me and my big old ass. So I'm just saying, I'm that's a win for me. So I love that from the perspective of a lingam owner, because we get this question most from men, right?
Absolutely.
Most men are asking, like, can I use porn? Can I have this external support? We're going to talk about vibrator use in an upcoming episode, ladies, because this is, you know, I know women watch porn too, right? So the same advice would follow, like, you know, if you're don't use it with your Tantra yoga practice, just getting started, because it's about internal attunement. But let's talk about when porn may be appropriate, because I've publicly, like, I am a supporter of sex work and sex workers. I don't personally do it, but I feel it is a necessary service. I have admiration and much respect for sex workers, and I believe porn, it can be a very useful tool at certain stages of our evolution as human beings, right? Porn is a substance that can be used mindfully, just like every other substance can be used mindfully. And when we're not using substances mindfully, then we become imbalanced. I mean, food. Is necessary to sustain life, but if we you know, are using it in a way that is imbalanced, it becomes a problem. It can create illness. So same with porn, same with alcohol, same with cannabis, same with any substance, that coffee, sugar, gluten, you know, anything. If it's overconsumed or overused or not used in the way that it was designed for, then, you know, it can create imbalance. And in that, you know, we have to say, like, what purpose was internet porn designed for? And it was designed to make you come as quickly as possible. That's what it was designed for.
About that.
It was designed to make you come as quickly as possible. And if you are a gentleman suffering from premature ejaculation, porn is not your friend.
No.
It's designed to wire your nervous system to come as quickly as possible. And not just porn. I want to say this entire culture, y'all. Like, guys, I want you to think back to when you were like however old you were when you discovered orgasm, 11, 12, 13, age may vary, and how it was this amazing thing, but you knew somehow that you weren't supposed to tell anybody about it, and you also knew that you needed to hurry up and get that shit over with as soon as possible before mom walked in, right? And then you had to dispose of the evidence, right? But again, the goal was to get to this peak as quickly as possible. So all of your sexual training, when you're doing this and breathing or not breathing, you are training your nervous system in a specific loop, in a specific feedback loop.
Very much
and I'm going to say for most of you, your entire life has been to train your nervous system in a feedback loop to reach that climax as quickly as possible. Yeah. So what the fuck do you think is going to happen when you put your penis in a vagina? All of your training, or an anus, all of your training is to come as quickly as possible. So part of what you're doing with your sexual tantra practice is you are literally rewiring your nervous system to relax with pleasure. You have all the fucking time in the world. Mom's not knocking on your door. Take your time, bathe in your bliss. Bathe in it. Give yourself the gift of luxuriating in every stage of your pleasure. Hang out at a 5. What the heck's happening at a 5? 5 is beautiful. Ooh, that's a 6. Oh, what's the difference between a 5 and a 6? Let me find out. Oh, shit, that's an 8. Whoa! That's a whole other world. Right? So you have an infinite universe of pleasure to explore, and you are an adult now, which means you can take your time and you can breathe. You can even make noise. You can turn that radio up if you have roommates, turn on that sound system, and open up that throat, make sound, let your pleasure move through your body. A lot of you guys are like,
yeah, that's a big one.
Look, that's going to make you come real quick, right? Pleasure. When you make sound, you open up your throat and your genitals are intricately connected. So I noticed you, like, right from the time we first got together, you were kind of noisy to begin with, and I really like that. But I will say, like, as a woman who loves penis and making love with men, I love hearing men express their pleasure. It turns me on so much when you're like, oh, yeah. And, or express it verbally, like say the words like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It's really liberating too, because it takes all that burden of like shame and guilt and just tosses it out. One of the things I just want to mention this quickly, Tantra is a game of subtlety, and human beings are very complex and subtle creatures. We deal with spectra along multiple dimensions of our existence. And so rather than, to kind of follow some of this spectrum, how it works, rather than marking a separation between the mind or the soul and the body, Tantra brings the body onto the path. It utilizes the body as Buddha. But then that means your exercise, your diet, your sleep patterns, your personal hygiene patterns, they're all on the path. Your sex life, also on the path. Okay, so now that sex life is now, there's a spectrum there as well. When you start approaching your sex life, some of the energies you're working with are pretty wild. And it takes some good baseline training to be able to handle them. And then even within that, there's a spectrum towards the more and more, I don't know what the right word for it is. Intensity, potential for things to go sideways, whatever. Like if you start getting out into extremes of porn, I mean, there's some gnarly stuff out there that I don't want anything to do with, right? But at the same time, like the intensity of like even just the sort of vanilla stuff is like, that's a lot of intensity. And if you don't have the background to know what to do with that, or the training to know how to handle that, don't mess around with it. Like, don't mess around with it. There's a lot of things that are like that. I use the car examples all the time. If you're going to learn to drive, get some low-powered little econo box and learn to drive in that. Because if you make a mistake, okay, you make a mistake. If you're learning to drive in a Formula One car, you make a mistake and you're dead, right? So you have to be aware of where along that spectrum are you, what does your training allow for, and what does it not? And that's all boils down to this notion called discriminating awareness, which comes right in with fire element, which is one of the practices that we start off working with.
And I love that you brought in like that, I'll call it shadow porn. So like at a certain maturation of your practice, it can be healthy and useful to weave in some pornography. So for example, like I think we've got some articles on like 3 ways porn can be medicine, right? So you can go to our blog at Authentic Tantra and read those articles, and those hold true to today. But one of the things I want to talk about is like you talking about like what you noticed is that for like where you are in your evolution now, that you look at, you know, a lot of porn and you're like, ew, do they even want to be there? Or, you know, like, like what, it's like shady, or it feels funky, right?
Yeah.
And that's because you've become so attuned to energetics that now when you see something, you can read the energy.
Yeah.
So that's a really, I would say, a proficient and healthy use of pornography I'm going to describe it in a partnership, right? So in a partnership, looking at different kinds of, you know, internet porn or video porn and using it to like as a conversation starter to discuss like, okay, I like that. Well, I that actually turned me on, and like, okay, what about that turned you on? So having a conversation, or ooh, I didn't like that, and why didn't you like that? So right, and so like noticing like how you feel in your body when you're watching some people on your computer have sex, and noticing how you feel in your body when you're watching other people have sex, right? Because not all porn is the same, and not all people having sex are the same. So something I noticed really early on was that for me, connection is really important. And when I would like go through so much porn looking for connection. And then when I found actors who there was connection, it didn't even matter what they looked like, right? Because it wasn't about like visual stuff. It was about the charge between them. And sometimes you'll find that. But like 2 people are really fucking happy to be there having sex, right? And that's awesome. And then we get to be included in that. It's connective for me too. I get to be part of the party, right? I get to be part of the porn party. So that's one use of using it medicinally, kind of like as an assessment tool and as a conversation starter. Another way of using porn, I'll say skillfully, is looking at is a way of moving through blocks, right? So like, you know, maybe I can't think of a good example right now. I can share an example for me, which was way back when I first started Tantra. The invitation to find some porn that I liked and have my partner at the time pleasure me while I was watching this porn really helped me break through that like good girls don't cultural conditioning, right? So it was this permission to enjoy the, you know, visual eroticism of porn and be pleasured at the same time. So it was like being given validation and permission, right? My whole sexual being got to be included, right? So it was really helpful for me, supportive for me to move through some of my own, you know, internalized cultural conditioning about what good girls are and aren't allowed to do sexually. So it was very helpful for me in that way. So it can be useful. Just, you know, depending on where you are in your cultivation of your you know tantra, your sexual tantra practice, it can be a hindrance or it can be a support. And that's where your discernment comes in. And if you don't know, that's an indication that your practice is not mature enough. Right? It's a very clear answer. When it's correct, it's correct. And if you don't know, then, you know, try it and see what the results are. But if the results are not congruent with your ultimate goal, which is self-connection, self-healing, self-mastery, then it's not appropriate. So let it go for now. That's my advice.
Oh, I would say, and again, as you develop, say, this discerning awareness more and more and more, again, for me, that connection piece shows up enormously. So, I mean, I'm not interested in watching 2 people slam together, both of them with the affect of dead fish. Like that, they're like
dead fish slapping.
Yeah, it's like, where's it's not, it might be graphic, but it's not erotic at all.
Yes. Ooh,
Like, it
shoot.
might be graphic, but it's not erotic.
Yeah.
And that is more commonly the what I see in the internet porn. It's like completely, like, almost deliberately disconnected. You know, so I've been seeing some videos pop up recently where, you know, the guy's going at it and the girl's on her phone. And you're like, what the hell, man? There's just, I mean, literally, like, no connection. Just like,
Well, that's just like using someone else's body to masturbate
exactly.
with, right?
And that does not set up any kind of healthy relationships at all.
Well, and then we wonder
Or
why.
expectations for relationships or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we wonder why our society looks the way it does.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel sorry for those folks, and I feel sorry for people, for any of y'all who have disconnected sex. There's so much more. We deserve so much more. You deserve so much more. So if you are cultivating a Tantra practice, a sexual Tantra practice specifically, we suggest that you monitor your porn consumption. If you're training with the Institute, follow the guidance of your instructor.
Yes.
Okay, always. And yeah, there's more than internet porn. So I'd invite you to explore erotica, listening to erotica, reading erotica, you know, using your imagination. Yeah, expand your wings beyond what's been spoon-fed to you purely for profit. Yeah. These folks don't care about you. They want your money, and that's it. So don't give them your power too. Don't give them your power and your money.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey there, thanks for listening to Tantra Talks. We hope you loved this episode as much as we did. Make sure you like and subscribe to Tantra Talks on all your favorite listening outlets, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, so you don't miss a single juicy episode.
And make sure you head over to authentictantra.com and register for our free introduction to Tibetan 5-element Tantra. Heal, transform, and empower your life with authentic lineage-based Tantra.
Too legit to quit. Too legit to quit. Too legit to quit. Too legit.